Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is January 7th, and right now we are looking at the culmination of Doppler radars here across the Pacific Northwest. If you take a nice look here, you can see some precipitation going on across the region, nice rainfall going on. There are some winter weather advisories for the east slopes of the Cascades, including Wenatchee, Leavenworth, up towards Omak here as well, for some snowfall occurring. You can see some winter storm warnings down here across California as well. But overall, a nice precipitation maker going on right now, just a gentle rainfall as we speak. Taking a look here, you can see the mid-level water vapor loop, and you can see these systems continue to pinwheel around the Pacific Ocean here, not really bringing us a direct hit across the Pacific Northwest, but we still could bring some strong winds and some precipitation, mainly to the coastal areas and some of the mountains as well. We'll take a look at what kind of precip and snowfall winds we're going to get out of these systems as they come in. So here's looking at the northern hemisphere here. There's Alaska, BC, Washington, Hawaii, Pacific Ocean here. These are the temperatures at 10,000 feet, about 700 millibars here. And you can see the cold air across the polar areas here and the warmer air across the equatorial region and the tropics down here. And you can see these systems kind of continue to be spawned by this cold air that moves down across the Pacific here. But these spin up off the coastline here and continue to bring atmospheric rivers into California here. And these lows kind of skirt the Oregon, Washington, BC coast. But there is some chance for some stronger winds with some of these systems here and some precipitation. Again, mainly coastal areas in the higher terrain. We'll look at that. But look at this polar lobe move down across Russia there and kind of out over the Pacific on into the 10-day period here. This might be the start of a pattern change across some of the Pacific Ocean here. We'll continue to watch that as we go. Now taking a look here, this is the European Ensemble last night's run, 10 p.m. equals 06Z here. Put that into motion. You can see the coastal areas in some of the Olympics, Vancouver Island, BC, the Cascades getting some pretty good precipitation amounts. Lesser amounts the further you go east here. And then as we go on in through Thursday, shown actually Wednesday night into Thursday, you can see some additional precip for the Puget Sounds with the Willamette Valley. Kind of on the cusp here, and this is what the models have been playing cat and mouse here over the last several days on how much precipitation we're going to continue to get across some of the metro areas here. But you see as you go east, lesser amounts. This goes out 144 hours shown. This will be about Thursday night here, so about an inch and a half for Seattle, 1.3 for Portland there. And you can see higher amounts along the coast in Vancouver Island, down towards southwest Oregon as well. And some of the Cascades getting some pretty big amounts, up over 2 inches here in the next 6 days. So taking a look here, this is the control run here on low pressure systems as they approach the coastlines. You can see these pinwheel up the coast here. And then we're watching this low pressure system here. It could bring some strong winds to the coast all the way up to Washington coast towards Vancouver Island. Fairly deep low here, 974 millibars shown there. Pretty good gradient for some easterly winds coming through the Cascades as well, and the gorge at one point here about Monday morning shown, and then some strong southeast winds as well in advance of this system across the northwest interior, Strait of Georgia, Vancouver Island, etc. And then you can see additional storms moving to California there as we continue to have these low pressure systems pinwheel out here across the Pacific Ocean through the 6-day period or so. Now taking a look here, 100-meter wind speed. Let's watch that. Some of these lows move up the coastline here. You can see some east winds here as we go through Saturday night tonight. It's a Stampede Gap gorge going on there, but not like what we had the last round. Then as we see here with a stronger low pressure system starts to move up the coastline here. Look at the Stampede Gap gets going a little bit better. The gorge maybe a little bit better here. Nothing too extreme right now, but we got to watch it. These can be kind of sneaky events here with these deep lows off the coastline, casting that easterly component through the Cascades there. And then you can see some of these stronger winds move up through the northwest interior, Strait of Georgia, and kind of hitting Quileute and portions of Vancouver Island pretty directly here as we go on in through Monday afternoon shown there before the winds finally start to subside across the area here. So this is also total precipitation, GFS. The last one was the European here. We're going to go out to about the same range here. We'll go to 144 hours. This is hot off the presses here, 12Z. And you can kind of see, again, favored areas, coastal regions, higher terrain down through California, southwest Oregon here. Not too much here as we go through Tuesday for the Puget Sound down to the Willamette Valley or east of the Cascades. But actually the GFS starting to bring a little bit more precipitation. The European was showing so some of the east slopes of the Cascades and even down towards Vantage, maybe Moses Lake getting in on the rain action there as we go through Tuesday morning as well. And we're going to go out to, let's see, we'll go out to about 138 hours and compare that to what the European was showing there. But we do get some precipitation here as we go on in through midweek as well across some of the Willamette Valley and the Puget Sound here. But you can see not huge rainmakers, but enough of this should fall as snowfall across the Cascades of Washington, Oregon, BC to maintain this nice snowpack we have for the ski areas currently. Now, taking a look at that ensemble mean snow 10-to-1 ratio here. This was last night's 10 p.m. run here. We're going to go out to 144 hours. You can see some decent amounts across the Cascades of Washington, Oregon. BC, kind of the winner out of this, as well as the higher terrain of Vancouver Island also. And no sign of lowland snow just yet. That may change though as we go on in through later January, on in through February. We'll continue to watch that, but nothing showing up just yet. Now here's the European on the left, the GFS on the right, 500 millibars, 18,000 feet, and you can see the pinwheel action going on off the coastline here. As we go on into Monday, that deep low starts to spin off our coastline here, and that could bring some strong winds to the coast and some easterly gap winds to the gorge and Stampede Gap, and maybe some strong winds again, northwest interior, Strait of Georgia, Vancouver Island there. And then you can see that storm move into California here, and we continue active here. Look at this at 111 hours. The GFS and the European in good agreement on the Gulf of Alaska troughing, continuing out there, continues to reinforce itself. And the GFS starts to change a little bit. You can see some differences start to emerge here at about 200 hours, but that's getting out there into fantasy land. And the general message here is that we're going to stay active here across Pacific Ocean here. And as we get later on, though, the pattern may change a bit. So some of these storms may impact the Pacific Northwest a little bit more directly here as we go on into next weekend. Now, taking a look here, significant wave height. This is Vancouver Island. You can see the west coast of North America all the way down towards the peninsula down here in Mexico, Hawaiian Islands out here. But you can see some pretty good waves rolling on through the west coast this morning here. Then you get a bit of a break, storm rolls up and brings some more waves. So some pretty good wave action going to be going on across the Washington coast here coming up in the next 10 days or so. As you can see here, going into Thursday afternoon, look at this, some pretty good waves impacting Oregon, Washington, Vancouver Island shown there. So some pretty good wave watching opportunities coming up here, but be careful out there. Sneaker waves can get you. Always watch for a safe distance. Don't turn your back on the ocean. This is Southwest Regional Airport. You can kind of see that this first system moving up the coastline here, some gusts up into the 40s are possible, and kind of not great agreement between the European ensemble runs as you get out in towards midweek here shown, but you can see some pretty big gusts still possible out there. This is Tillamook. Look, a lot of the ensembles are calling for some 50-plus mile-per-hour gusts here as you go on in through Sunday night into Monday morning shown here. This would be Quileute Airport up the Washington coastline here a little bit later, maybe Sunday night into Monday morning again. Gusts into the 40s, maybe up towards 50 miles per hour as well, with the potential for some bigger winds as you go on in through the extended also. This is Stampede Pass, kind of an east wind event going on here. As you can see, the mean up into the 40s here. So we're going to watch this east wind gap event across the Cascades and the gorge closely here over the next couple of days as well. This is Orcas Island. Could get some strong winds, the southeasterlies in advance of that low pressure system moving up the coastline shown there. Seattle, Tacoma, a little bit of a windstorm hunt here. Not much showing up, just maybe some blustery conditions as we go through Sunday night on into Monday night shown here. Now, the Pacific North American Oscillation here, some of the models have been changing a little bit. They're taking away our negative territory here as we go on in through the mid portion of January. If we look at the deterministic GFS, has a little bit more into the negative territory there. The European ensemble, though, the most recent one, has us dropping down a bit and climbing back out. And again, this does not mean that we're not going to be in an active pattern. It just means the storm track would remain out over the Pacific Ocean here. So we can still get big atmospheric rivers and windstorms in a situation like that. Here's the GFS ensemble, kind of right about neutral territory there. The GFS extended as of January 4th afternoon. You can see spending some time in a negative territory, but this is an older model run here. So we're getting a little bit of changes showing up here. This is the Canadian ensemble shown here, kind of bouncing around neutral. And the European weeklies was showing an interesting signal here on January 4th. But again, we're getting a little bit of change here coming up. So right now, we're not sure what to expect as we go through the extended with much confidence at all. Now, this, again, I'm going to drill this into your guys' head here. This is the Pacific North American Oscillation. This is positive here, where the storm track is out over the Pacific Ocean. This can bring storm systems and powerful ones to the Pacific Northwest. This is negative here, where we get the more northerly, northwesterly flow. And this is what snow lovers want to see with the big high pressure out here. North flow, northwest flow, bringing that cold air back down into the Pacific Northwest. And now we're taking a look at snow in Washington. We went over this a little bit yesterday, but most trails are open. Most ski areas are doing pretty good. You can see the base depth doing pretty well here across Washington State. Summit at Snoqualmie even has all open trails are all open right now. There's still a few lifts that aren't running right now, but doing pretty good so far across the state of Washington. This is Oregon here. Most areas are doing pretty well. I don't know what's going on there at Timberline Lodge here. Most of their trails are not open yet, but you can see most of the ski areas are doing quite well here, and they've got a decent base depth, enough for skiing and snowboarding out there. This is British Columbia, doing pretty well as usual here for British Columbia during the January months here. But you can see most lifts are open, most trails are open, except for a few areas. I'm not sure what's going on there at Sasquatch Mountain Resort. There, I'm sure somebody could tell us in the comments here, but Whistler doing well, 97% open. Most of the lifts are running. Now, this is for, I want to point this out, considerable avalanche danger here for Leavenworth and Wenatchee out here on the east slopes of the Cascades here. So watch out for that if you're out there in the backcountry, out on spending your weekend out there in Leavenworth or Wenatchee doing a hike or some snowshoeing or snowmobiling, whatever you might be doing out there. Heads up for that considerable avalanche danger there. And I wanted to give you a visual description here of what's going on with La Nina. Here we are in January, and you can see we're going through the rapid climb here, and we're going to quickly go to neutral conditions here and potentially even El Nino. And if you look closely here, you can kind of see that warm water along the equatorial Pacific starting to show up here in the springtime, the early summer portion here as La Nina really gets kicked out of the Pacific Ocean pretty rapidly here if you like listening to the models, and that's been showing up a little bit, the sea surface temperature anomaly out there across the equatorial Pacific. So this looks like it's starting to come into fruition, and our 3-year run of La Nina will be coming to an end most likely here. So anyway, yeah, we'll continue to watch these storms. We'll watch to see just how close this big low is going to get to the coastline here as we go on in through Monday as well. See if it's going to uptrend in some of the wind speeds, especially out of the east, the Stampede Gap area again, and the gorge through the Washington-Oregon border down there. But otherwise, it looks like we're going to remain active here through the 2-week period, with potentially some of these storms starting to focus a little bit more on the Pacific Northwest versus California, maybe in the 2-week period here. So we'll continue to watch that. And yeah, thanks for all my new members, our new subscribers. We're up over 27,000 subscribers now, and I will cover other areas of the world really when things get active. And we're not that active here across Pacific Northwest, so I can concentrate on multiple things at once, and I'll continue to do that as we go on through this channel's evolution here. So anyway, yeah, click like, subscribe, leave some comments below, let me know what you guys are seeing out there, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.